I can work with whoever I want. I'm not married to these two people and their opinions. I'm like, the real breakthrough would be if I could call one of them and be like, hey, do you want to work on a song together? But then that would really just make it a yay stage.
Welcome to the Showcast, a show about music, culture, and Memphis.
As we live into our mission of building community through music,
education,
and diversity,
we look forward to interviewing artists, musicians, movers, and shakers about how they're writing their own stories
and building their own communities.
For almost 90 years, the show has stood the test of time as a beacon of hope
in the heart of Memphis.
This podcast is brought to you by Orion Federal Credit Union, where a big part of us is being a big part of the community. Visit orionfcu.com to see how Orion is redefining banking. Anand, thank you so much for joining us on the Showcast. Super excited to chat with you. Really, to kick things off, I wanted to ask a fun question. Who is Anand Wilder? If you could describe yourself using 5 adjectives.
Oh my God. I hate distilling myself into small little bites. God, I would say I'm a happy person, a passionate person. I love to laugh, and I love good food, and I'm obsessed with music, I would say.
Awesome.
Were those adjectives or those were verbs? I don't really know. I never was good with the grammar,
Close enough. I feel like we got a good kind of snapshot. And so you're originally from Baltimore, correct?
That's right. Yep. Born and raised.
Awesome. What was it like growing up in Baltimore? And I guess, how did it musically influence you and how you create today?
I was so steeped in music in Baltimore, and I didn't, I kind of took it for granted at the time. But from age 2, at age 2, I started playing violin because my older sister was in this program. It was called the Baltimore Talent Education Center.
Oh, cool.
And it was I think it was a tax-funded program.
Wow.
It was very, very cheap. And then eventually, and it was just like full-on cello lessons, weekly private lessons. I mean, it's insane how much money I spend for my daughter in New York to get piano lessons.
Yeah.
It was all, I just took it for granted. It was just like, and that was my church. I'm not a religious person, but it was every Saturday was orchestra. Every Thursday was cello, and my dad was my chauffeur, and he would just take me. And I really felt like kind of this royalty, because I was pretty good at cello. I was pretty good, and it was like,
nice.
Don't let him wash dishes. You don't want to mess up the cello fingers.
I like that.
Yeah. And then in 3rd grade, I distinctly remember being in the car and over here and listening to the radio, and it was this director of this boy choir saying that he wanted people to come. And my mom was like, do you want to do this too? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so that was 2 practices, Monday and Wednesday every week.
Wow.
And then those performances were usually at churches, Mm-hmm. That was like Sundays. So it was just full on all the time,
Wow.
And I loved it. It was great. And then you go to the orchestra camps and the choir camps and going on these trips to New York to play in some, it's like all these memories of childhood. And then in school, I went to this kind of this private school outside of Baltimore, and there was a pretty good arts program there too, like very good, like musical theater. And so I was acting in all the plays, I can still quote, I was like the Prince of Morocco and stuff. Shakespeare and all the Into the Woods and that kind of thing. So that happened. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, then it was like, okay, let's learn how to play guitar. I kind of learned how to play guitar on my own.
Oh, cool.
Learning chords from friends. And then it was like, okay, I guess we got to start writing songs. That's a cool thing to do. You got to do it. So I was in a couple bands in high school. And actually the band I was in before I'm solo is YYXR, was
right.
A friend of mine, Chris Keating, who I went to school with from 1st grade on.
Whoa. Okay.
So we were kind of like ne'er-do-well artist buddies, and he was more on the visual art side of things, but really great singer, great songwriter. And we would make funny like vaudeville style French videos for a French class and stuff like that. And then we were in a band together. So, and it was this real connection where, you know, I went to college for a few years. I didn't really get into the whole academic thing. It was just
Gotcha.
really for me, because I'm not a visual artist. So I didn't go to art school. And I didn't continue doing cello in college. I did American history of all things. And there was still this connection with this guy, and I would go up and visit him at Rhode Island School of Design, and there was a real kindred spirit with all these visual artists. Were all trying to be in bands too. And I had this classical music background. I'm like, I know what a G minor 7 is, you know. So that was kind of the collaboration, because, you know, really the pop music thing is a real combination of artistic thing and then a music thing, you know.
Wow. And I mean, you mentioned making these vaudeville style films and the connection with, you know, your collaborator who is at design school. I've just noticed even in your solo work, the cinematic nature of your music videos.
Thanks.
It's pretty dope. And it's very almost like this music is like soundtracking this visual.
Thanks. Yeah. I was very happy that he sent me a text message after the music video came out. I was like, nice job. Did you shoot that on film? And I was like, thank you for noticing. Yes, I did. And the whole atmosphere of making the music video, I told him, I was like, it really reminded me of when we used to make stuff back in 9th grade or, you know, 10th grade, just like having fun and just going with crazy ideas. And yeah, but that was, thanks for noticing that. I you know, we shot that all on film, spent way too much money on it. It
was still worth it. Like,
my gosh. Thanks. Yeah. I want to make more, you know.
Do you kind of like, are you interested in cinematography, or is that kind of another kind of element that you want to make sure is connected with your music?
I love cinema and I love film, but I think I'm actually a horrible cinematographer. Like, I think I'm like the guy who's, you know, my wife and all of her friends are like, take a picture of us. And I take 1,000 pictures and they're just like, you are horrible. Do it again. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. I never learned about composition, and like, I just don't have it's not something that comes naturally to me at all. So
wow. I
rely on the expertise of, you know, people that have dedicated their lives to it, you know.
Awesome.
And then I can say, oh, let's make it like this you know, 1940s Bollywood movie. Let's do it something like this, the scene, and how can we have this dream sequence, and we'll figure out the way to show it through the visual language, you know.
Love it. Well, I mean, you're now in this solo era, and you created your debut solo project during the pandemic, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. So how has it been now being able to perform it live with, you know, people and outside of kind of that silo of being enclosed and isolated?
It's great. I mean, you know, I've done a tour already, and I've been collaborating with these 3 musicians, and one a really strong connection early on, right after I finished the record, was with this musician named Walter Fancourt, and he's from Greensboro, North Carolina, and I met him on tour. He was in this band called Reptar. He plays saxophone. Cool. He played saxophone in this band called Reptar, and I sent him the album, and he was like, "Oh, this is right on my alley. It's like 70s kind of sounding, but it's also got weird meter changes." And I was like, okay, great, thanks. And he would just take the songs and play iwi over, you know, iwi, the electronic wind instrument.
Yeah.
And it was just creating this layer on top that, you know, I made the foundation, I made the songs, I wrote the lyrics and all that stuff, the chords. And then he's just one of these kind of virtuoso wind players that he could, and we kind of worked together to say, okay, what could this song use? Oh, let's try some flute over it. How crazy can we get it to be, and still have the skeleton of the song be there? So that's what the live show is like. It's like these, because the album is pretty stripped back. I mean, I did spend a lot of time on the production of it, making it sound pleasant and kind of low key and nice. But you know, the theme when I would go on tour was, you know, the friends who felt like they could say stuff to me would say like, man, can you just redo the album? It's way better live.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a real different thing. So it's a real different thing from the album recording. And I'm using he's playing saxophone on songs. He's playing iwi and flute, and then I have this amazing drummer Ricky Petragula, and he's playing drums. And then this bassist named Sandra Travisano, he's playing bass, holding down the low end. And I'm kind of just floating these little 12-string guitar, simple little grooves over it. So it's been great. You know, it was I had to do it. Was the pandemic forced me to do it all myself, but it was I also just it became a concept of, okay, I've broken up with this band. The whole band was about trusting each other, confiding in each other with these two, you know, really saying, okay, if this is your opinion, or, you know, and I'm going to listen to you. And this one was like, okay, if I'm going solo, I need to do it all myself, you know? And the wonderful thing now that we're out of the pandemic is I've been collaborating with Walter. He's been coming over, and we just make tons of jams. I've, you know, this guy, Zach, who's in this band, Jackery, he opened up for me at National Sawdust in Brooklyn.
Oh, cool.
We became really good friends. He plays in this band, Lorraine. Do you know Lorraine?
Yeah.
Really cool band. And he came over and we wrote a song in a day, and I'm really excited about that. So I've been recording all the, and you know, after the first album being this solo lockdown challenge kind of thing, now I'm really excited to be like, oh wait, I can be a total slut. I can work with whoever I want. I'm not married to these two people and their opinions. You know, I'm like, the real breakthrough would be if I could call one of them and be like, hey, do you want to work on a song together? You know, but then that would really just make it a yes there song. That's all it is. It's just saying, okay, we're working on this, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you've also just recently released a score that you worked on for a film, Cannibalizing the Conductor.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was, so the cinematographer and director of my music videos that we shot on film, the videos for Delirium Passes and Fever Seizure. Before he directed those videos, I recorded him and these two co-directors they're kind of from this Berlin art scene, dance. And I recorded them doing this live score in my studio.
Oh.
After doing that, he was like, if you ever need a music video, I'll do a music video for you. So it was kind of this artist grade. And after we did that first one, they were like, for the next one, we really want you to compose music yourself, not just record them.
Wow.
So the video is like 30-minute long. They're just dancing, and there's some narrative elements too. And they danced to a soundtrack, and I basically had to recreate it without copying, you know.
Wow.
Keeping the meter the same because to match up with their thing. But then taking a lot of instruction from them. Okay, from here to here, you need to have it be really amped up, and it's got to up. And they were like, and hopefully maybe you can use this as an album. And then eventually they did the mix and everything. They did a mix, sound mix for the debut of it. Like, I think it was in November or something like that. And then send me the stereo mix. And I was like, I'm going to put this out. Sounds awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. Was this your first score?
Yeah, I did a couple scores for just short little pieces for my sister. She used to make films in India.
Oh, cool.
So just little like public service announcement things that I've done. But no, this was the first time when it was really making music to accompany this long visual piece and making everything fit in. And it's really, it's a pretty cool way of making music and making decisions that you would never make if you were into some, song structure where you're like, okay, now we got to go to the chorus. Now we got to go to,
That's awesome.
So it was pretty freeing. And it's actually kind of an exciting score because it's not just, there are some ambient soundscapey type things, but then I was like, oh, let me get back in touch with my synthesizer. They wanted something that was more electronic. So I would spend a lot of time making these really cool piano tones, and then they'd say like, "Hey, we don't piano. It sounds like classical ballerina music or something." No, make it a synth. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So it was drum machines, and after getting away from some of my tricks that I would use with Yesayer, some of the more amped up rhythmic stuff, I was like, no, you know what? I can do this again. I am one of the guys from this band. I can make something that's a little Yesayer-y,
Yeah, that's really cool. And then you even just released it on cassette, which is great. That's super tight.
Yeah, so my label agreed to put it out digitally. You know, I'm super stoked to have a label to handle all that technical stuff of uploading everything to the streaming services so that everybody can access music for free from wherever in the world, you know.
Exactly.
But then I just felt there was something a little empty about it without making some physical object. So this friend of mine, George McCracken, who's an artist who also went to RISD, so I know him through my old bandmate.
Cool.
He is in school doing a landscape architecture degree, and he was telling me about this project that he was doing of these imagined lichen gardens.
Ooh.
And so he had to do all these topographical drawings, and he showed them to me, and I was like, oh, this would be a great kind of Brian Eno-esque ambient album cover. And so that's what the cover of the cassette is.
I love it. I love it.
And it looks like these guys in a kind of weird zone listening to music or something, you know.
Yeah, but I like the nostalgic approach, and it's not only nostalgic, but it's also, I don't know, it's just unique, and especially given it's a score that you're releasing, I thought it was just a really cool pairing.
Thanks. Yeah, and there is kind of this trend now of ambient electronic weird music being released on tape.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, Austin Fisher, he has put out a tape, and he was like, "Yeah, here's the place to do it." And he laid out the design too.
Awesome.
See, I have to rely on these visual artist people because I open up Photoshop to try to make like a flyer for a show, and I start to have a fucking
Understandable. And
I
now
open up Photoshop. I'm like, oh, I need to just go to art school for like one semester just to learn these things. I'm like, why is the text not working? Why does it keep saying ipsum lorem? I'm just
oh man, Photoshop.
Yeah. But we all have to do it now. That's the thing, is like when you're just expected to do everything yourself nowadays, right? It's like,
yeah.
And then hand it over for free to our corporate overlords, our techno corporate overlords.
Exactly.
Want to learn more about how you can support the Overton Park Shell and its mission of building community through music, education, and diversity? Head to overtonparkshell.org. You can read up on our history, check out our schedule of events, visit our shell shop to grab all the swag, and find out ways that you can participate in our mission, whether that's through donations, volunteering, sponsoring a concert, or becoming a member of the Shell Circle. Once again, that's overtonparkshell.org.
Is this your first time playing in Memphis?
Well, I played in Memphis with WYXR, but I can't remember where I played in Memphis, but I don't think we played there.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think we even played there on the last tour. I did like a kind of a quasi Graceland trip. You know?
Oh, cool.
I didn't pay the full money to go inside, that kind of thing.
Well, fun fact, I actually have never been to Graceland. I think most Memphians probably have that same response, and it's usually kind of like a true sign of a Memphian. If you
right. You went to Sun Studios is there too, right?
Oh, also, yeah.
Yeah, we went there and did that tour, and I was like blown away by the whoever was leading the tour, they're just like so knowledgeable. They've got this like obsessive history with this.
Yeah, I'm like, they usually always have great energy too.
Yeah, totally. That's more my vibe, like the Roy Orbison and all that guy, Johnny Cash and all that stuff,
Understandable.
Elvis is great, but he's not like the only guy that I obsessively care about from that era of music,
No. Definitely a lot of rich history. And I feel like every time you visit Sun, you walk away being like, oh, I didn't know that. Or like, oh man, that's amazing. Like some new tidbit.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I guess in terms of, as you're about to embark on this next run of your tour, is there anything else aside from, additional collaborations that you're working on musically?
I've just started getting into DJing.
Nice.
It seems like, I had this friend of mine, Connor Fedding-Smith, who he's directing a documentary about LGBTQ kids in the foster care system.
Oh, wow.
in America. And he was coming to New York to raise some money so that he can finish up this film. And I was like, well, I could DJ it if you want, And so I DJ'd this event. And then once you kind of like put it out there that you're DJing, then, I live in New York City. So there's just all these bars that need DJs all the time because they're sick of playing Spotify playlists. So it was something that I had kind of avoided because it stressed me out. And actually Chris from WYXR was much more into the DJing thing. So I was like, this is his thing, So I'm just getting into it. And like within the last 2 weeks, I'm like, I've been doing so many gigs. And I did a CDJ gig. I learned CDJs. And then someone else was, can you do vinyl? Or someone was like, unless you're a digital dummy. And I was like, no, I can do vinyl too. I can do it. And so I got really anal about categorizing all my vinyl. And it's a motivating thing to be like, if you're thinking about music in terms of what you can play at a bar and not piss people off and be like, this guy's, because I don't know that I'm a natural DJ. Like I think when I was, working the checkout at the Park Slope Food Co-op and I was playing music off of my iPod or my iPhone or whatever, and I thought I was doing a great job.
Yeah.
And some other checkout lady comes over and she's like, could you turn this music down? This is horrible. It doesn't make any sense, these transitions.
Oh, goodness.
And I was thinking I was playing really cool stuff, not like your typical, there is a genre called supermarket music, which you go into and it's always going to be the same Maroon 5 and Ed Sheeran. And it's fine. That makes you want to buy eggs or whatever. It works. I'm always in the supermarket shazamming a song, being like, what is this? Is this Maroon 5 or is this Ed Sheeran or what is it? But I thought I was doing something a little more eclectic for the Park Slope Food Co-op crowd, but apparently not. They want the basic tunes, So I don't know. I'm getting into it. I feel I did this vinyl thing, and I was saving. I categorized all my disco stuff in order of beats per minute, so I could get faster and faster. But I realized there was so much time from like 8 to 10 when nobody's dancing or anything. It's just you want to play weird stuff, and I was like, I need to get more weird stuff. I need to get a more obscure vinyl set up so that for those 2 hours so that people can be like, what is this, man? It's awesome. And then I showed it to I showed my categorization to my friend Nick from Chick Chick Chick, that band Chick Chick Chick, and he was like, oh yeah, pretty good. It's a kind of a dollar bin thing. I was like, yeah, dollar bin. I love the dollar bin. Who can afford to buy vinyl that's not from the dollar bin? That's what it's all about. Is being like, can't believe I found this.
Exactly.
It's only $1.
Wow.
And I will be selling my records for $30. So please.
That's still very reasonable. Awesome. No, that's very cool.
That's what I'm getting into. And then also just crank, just trying to finish up. It's once you're doing the live thing and being more active, it's harder for me to for when the pandemic was a great period of time. I think a lot of artists just cranked out music, and their lives weren't really that different than being off of a tour cycle.
True.
So, obviously, if, people that had just put out albums and were going out on tour and that had to be canceled, that's like super tragic and horrible. And then the way the whole music industry came back with like excessive testing of the artists, it felt very discriminatory to me. But we're all just humans, just flailing, trying to figure out what the best course of action is. It was pretty unprecedented what happened,
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're fully back from it. I still feel like music was deemed irrelevant. No, what was the word? Unessential. We all kind of realized we were not essential, and now we're trying to crawl back.
Yeah.
In the face of our corporate techno overlords who just want to have all of our stuff for free and give it out for people for free. It's all right. No, it's all right. I going back to most of my music life was paying someone else so that I could just learn music. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I feel very privileged that I'm able to do this still.
For sure. And can't thank you enough for chatting with me today.
Of course, happy to talk. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, McKenzii.